I'm Lena Hart, 34 years old. And before I tell you what happened at that family lunch in Westfield, New Jersey, I need you to understand something. My mother, Pamela, spent my entire life rewriting who I was to fit whatever narrative made her look better. When I was successful, she called it luck. When I was tired, she called it laziness. And when I finally built a life she couldn't control, she called it suspicious. That Sunday afternoon, surrounded by aunts, uncles, and cousins at Romano's Italian restaurant, she decided to destroy me publicly. The tables were pushed together, creating one long surface covered in bread baskets and wine glasses. Everyone was laughing, trading stories about their weeks. I sat quietly, checking my phone between courses, responding to work messages that couldn't wait until Monday. That's when Pamela struck. She raised her wine glass high, her voice cutting through the conversation like a knife. "A toast," she announced, "to my daughter Lena and her incredibly lazy lifestyle. Sleeping until noon, pretending to work from her phone while the rest of us have real jobs." The laughter started scattered, then grew. My uncle Marcus grinned. My cousin Jade smirked into her napkin. Only my grandfather, sitting at the far end, didn't join in. Pamela wasn't finished. She stood up, wobbling slightly from the wine, and extended her hand toward me. "Come on, Lena. Show us your calendar. Let's see what you do all day besides scroll through social media." My chest tightened. Every eye turned toward me, waiting. I should have refused. I should have stood up and walked out. But something in me snapped after 34 years of being diminished, something fierce and final. I unlocked my phone and handed it to her. Pamela's smile was triumphant as she tapped open my calendar app. "Let's see what we have here," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. The room leaned in, eager for the punchline. Her eyes scanned the screen, then her expression shifted, just slightly. Confusion flickered across her face before she forced it back into smugness. "Monday at 6 a.m., she read aloud. "Emergency briefing." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Tuesday, 7 a.m., court filing deadline. Wednesday, 9 p.m., client transport to safe location." The laughter around the table died like a candle being snuffed out. Forks paused mid-air, wine glasses lowered slowly. My Aunt Claire exchanged glances with her husband. Pamela's voice wavered as she continued reading entries she clearly didn't understand. "Thursday, 11 p.m., Pamela read, her voice losing confidence. "Witness relocation coordination. Friday, 5 a.m., emergency protection order filing." The table had gone completely silent now. Uncle Marcus cleared his throat. Jade stopped smirking and actually looked uncomfortable. Pamela scrolled faster, desperately searching for something that would support her narrative. Saturday, 3 a.m., crisis intervention. Sunday, midnight, documentation review. Someone coughed. Another person shifted in their chair. "Well," Pamela said, her voice sharp and defensive now, "anyone can type fake meetings into their phone. This doesn't prove anything." She thrust the phone back at me. "You probably made this up just to look important." I took my phone calmly, my hands steadier than they'd been in years. "You asked for proof?" I said quietly. "There it is." Pamela's smile didn't just fade. It collapsed entirely, like a house with its foundation removed. The power she'd held over me for decades crumbled in that single moment. Then my phone rang in my hand, the screen lighting up with my boss's name. I looked at Pamela, then at the silent table, and answered. "Lena?" My boss's voice was urgent. "The injunction hearing for the Brennan case just got moved up. Judge Mitchell's clerk called. We need you downtown in 40 minutes, not tomorrow morning." I stood up from the table, pulling my jacket from the back of my chair. "I'm in New Jersey. I can be there in an hour if traffic cooperates." "Make it work," she said. "This family needs that protection order in place tonight." "Understood." I ended the call and looked at the table full of relatives who were now staring at me with completely different expressions. Curiosity, confusion, even something that might have been respect. "Injunction hearing?" my Aunt Claire asked quietly. Pamela's face flushed red. "She's making this up," she snapped, her voice rising. "This is exactly what she does. Lies for attention, creates drama. She's always been this way, even as a child." I didn't argue. I simply picked up my bag and started walking toward the exit. Behind me, I heard my grandfather's voice for the first time that afternoon. "Pamela, sit down." But she didn't. She followed me to the parking lot, her heels clicking angrily on the pavement, already planning her next move. The drive back to my apartment in Hoboken should have been peaceful. The sun was setting over the Hudson, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. But my mind kept replaying every moment from that lunch, every year of being told I wasn't enough. My brother Tyler got praise for graduating college with a C average. I got silence for my master's degree with honors. Tyler got a car when he turned 25 and was still living at home. I got told I should be more grateful when I paid for my own apartment at 22. The pattern was so old and so deep that I'd almost stopped seeing it. Almost stopped feeling it. But today had reopened every wound I thought I'd sealed. My phone buzzed with incoming messages. I ignored them until I pulled into my building's parking garage. Then I looked. 15 texts. Most from family members I rarely heard from. Pamela had clearly been busy during my drive, but one message made my blood freeze. It was from Pamela herself, sent 10 minutes ago. Your brother Tyler needs to move in with you next week. His landlord is selling the building. It's already decided. Family helps family. I stared at the message, reading it 3 times to make sure I understood correctly. Not a question, not a request, a statement of fact. She wasn't asking for my permission. She was informing me of what would happen. My apartment wasn't luxury. It was a 1-bedroom in an older building, 700 square feet, that I'd furnished slowly over 5 years with second-hand finds and careful savings. It was the first place that ever felt truly mine. Safe, quiet, under my control. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Pamela, of course. I'm texting you Tyler's moving details, she said without greeting. He'll need the spare key by Thursday. I don't have a spare bedroom, I said carefully. You have a couch. You work from home anyway, so you barely use your living room. Tyler needs this, Lena. He's struggling. He can find another apartment. Her voice went cold. You don't even work that hard. You're on your phone all day. He actually has a real job at the warehouse, physical labor. He needs rest. You can make do with less space. And there it was, the real reason. Not emergency or genuine need. This was about proving that my life, my work, my space didn't matter as much as Tyler's comfort. The answer is no, I said firmly. Tyler can stay with you while he apartment hunts. Pamela laughed, sharp and bitter. I don't have room. Your father's office takes up the spare bedroom. Besides, you owe us this. Do you know how much we spent raising you? The familiar guilt tactic, the weapon she'd sharpened over 34 years. I'll help him find a place and cover his deposit, I offered, already knowing it wouldn't be enough. That's not the same as family helping family, Pamela hissed. But fine. Be selfish. I'll remember this, Lena. When you need something someday, don't come crying to us. She hung up. I sat in my car for 10 more minutes, hands shaking, before heading inside. As I approached my apartment door, I noticed something on the floor. A small package addressed to me, delivered earlier that day. I picked it up, unlocked my door, and froze. Tyler was sitting on my couch. Behind him, standing in my kitchen like she owned it, was Pamela. She was holding up a key, dangling it from her fingers with a smile that made my stomach turn. Problem solved, she said brightly. How did you get in here? My voice was eerily calm, the kind of calm that comes right before an explosion. I had a spare key made 2 years ago when you gave me yours for emergency purposes, Pamela said, like this was perfectly reasonable. Remember? When you had that medical procedure and needed someone to check on you? I did remember. I'd been so grateful for her help then, so touched that she'd driven up to feed my cat and water my plants. I'd never asked for the key back. Never imagined I'd need to. Tyler looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting between me and our mother. Lena, I'm sorry about the surprise, but I really do need a place, just for a few weeks until I find something. You don't get to decide that, I said, still looking at Pamela. This is my home. Mine. I pay the rent. I set the boundaries. Pamela's expression hardened. You're being dramatic. It's just a couch for a few weeks, but fine. She held out the key. Take it. I thought I was helping. I stepped forward and took the key from her hand. Her fingers held on for just a second too long, a power play. You need to leave, I told them both. Now. Pamela's eyes narrowed. She leaned close, her voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear. You're going to regret treating your family this way. You think you're so important with your secret job and your mysterious schedule, but I know the truth about you. I always have. Then she straightened, smiled brightly at Tyler. and walked out. Tyler grabbed his bag slowly, looking like a kicked puppy. "I didn't know she was going to do this," he mumbled. "She said you'd already agreed." "When has she ever been honest about what I've said?" I asked quietly. He had no answer for that. He left. I locked the door behind them, then immediately called a locksmith. Emergency service, double the normal rate, but I didn't care. Within 2 hours, my locks were changed. 3 new keys, all accounted for, all in my possession. That night, I barely slept. I kept expecting to hear someone trying the old key, kept imagining Pamela's face when she realized I'd shut her out. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed with a voicemail. I hadn't heard it ring. Pamela's voice poured out of the speaker, syrupy and concerned and loud enough for anyone nearby to overhear. She'd designed it that way. "Hi, sweetie, it's Mom calling again," the voicemail began, her voice dripping with false concern. "I'm really worried about you after yesterday. The way you spoke to me and Tyler, the paranoia about the key, refusing to help your own brother. I think you might be going through something. Maybe the stress of whatever you're doing for work is getting to you. I really think you should talk to someone. A professional. Before this gets worse, call me back. I love you." The implication was clear. She was building a narrative. Lena is unstable. Lena is paranoid. Lena needs help. 2 hours later, my building manager emailed me. "Miss Hart, we've received a complaint regarding potential illegal activity associated with your unit. The complaint alleges irregular hours, multiple visitors at odd times, and suspicious behavior. While we don't typically investigate based on single complaints, the detailed nature of this one requires us to follow up. Please contact the office at your earliest convenience." My hands went cold. I called immediately. The complaint was anonymous, the manager said carefully, but very specific. "Whoever filed it knows your schedule intimately." I knew exactly who had filed it. The name on the complaint didn't matter. Pamela's fingerprints were all over it. That afternoon, my boss called me into her office. The moment I saw her face, I knew Pamela had escalated. "Your mother filed a formal complaint about you," she said without preamble. "Not with us directly, but with the state licensing board. She's claiming you're engaging in unethical practices, specifically that you're housing clients without proper authorization and documentation." I sank into the chair across from her desk. "That's completely false." "I know that," she said gently, "but we still have to respond. The board is requiring a full review of your case files from the last 6 months. They want to verify client confidentiality protocols, housing arrangements, everything. My career. The work I'd spent a decade building. The families I'd helped escape dangerous situations, all of it was now under scrutiny because my mother couldn't accept the word no. This can't escalate further," my boss continued. "If it does, we may not be able to protect your position here, not because we doubt you, but because the optics become impossible to manage." My phone buzzed. Security review, scheduled. Expedited processing. Background check updated. They were questioning my clearance. Because of my family. For 3 days, I said nothing to anyone outside of work. I documented everything with my lawyer, provided the licensing board with meticulous records, and watched my carefully constructed life teeter on the edge of collapse. Then my grandfather called. "Lena, I'm having my 83rd birthday dinner on Saturday. I want you there." His voice was firm. "Your mother will be there, your brother, the whole family. We need to talk about what's happening." I should have said no. Every instinct screamed at me to avoid that room, that trap, that inevitable ambush. But this was my grandfather, the one person who'd never diminished me, who'd quietly slipped me money for textbooks when Pamela claimed I should work more hours instead, who'd shown up to my college graduation when my parents forgot the date. "I'll be there," I said. Saturday arrived too quickly. I drove to the restaurant in silence, my stomach twisted in knots. The private room was already full when I walked in. 20 relatives, all watching me enter. Pamela stood near the head of the table, glass of wine already in hand. When our eyes met, she smiled. Dinner began normally enough. Food was ordered, wine was poured. My grandfather opened gifts and made jokes about being old. But I could feel the weight of anticipation in the room. Everyone was waiting for something. Halfway through the main course, Pamela tapped her wine glass with a fork. The sound cut through conversation like a knife. "Before we have cake?" she announced. "I think we need to address something that's been weighing on all of us. Lena's situation." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Around the table, relatives shifted uncomfortably or leaned forward with interest. "What situation?" I asked quietly. "Your secretive lifestyle, your refusal to help family, your increasingly unstable behavior." Pamela's voice was calm, rational, concerned. She'd practiced this. "We're worried about you, honey. The lying about your job, the paranoia, pushing away the people who love you." My Uncle Marcus nodded. "Your mother mentioned you've been acting strangely, refusing to let Tyler stay with you for a few weeks, changing your locks like someone's after you. Creating these elaborate stories about emergency court cases and witness protection," my Aunt Claire added gently. One by one, they took turns, expressing concern, questioning my judgment, suggesting I might need help. Pamela orchestrated it perfectly. She barely spoke after her opening statement, letting others voice the concerns she'd carefully planted during private phone calls all week. My cousin Jade, who'd smirked at me during that first lunch, now looked at me with pity. "We just want to understand what's really going on with you, Lena. Why you're making up these stories about your job." "I'm not making up anything," I said evenly. "Then show us," Pamela said softly, dangerously. "Show us your phone again. Let everyone see these mysterious meetings. Or admit that you've been exaggerating to make yourself seem more important than you are." The room went silent. This was the moment she'd been building toward. Public confession or public proof, either way she thought she'd win. I looked at my grandfather. He was watching me carefully, not with judgment, but with curiosity, waiting. I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and placed it in the center of the table. "Read all of it," I said. My Uncle Marcus picked it up first. His eyes scanned the screen, his expression shifting from skeptical to confused. He scrolled, his brow furrowing deeper with each entry. "Thursday, 2 a.m. Marcus read aloud. "Emergency shelter coordination for family of 4. Friday, 11 p.m., witness preparation for protection order hearing. Saturday, 4 a.m., crisis intervention and safety planning." He scrolled further, his voice growing quieter. "Sunday, midnight to 3 a.m., documentation review for emergency custody case. Monday, 5:30 a.m., court filing for temporary restraining order." Aunt Claire took the phone next. "Tuesday, 10 p.m., client transport to undisclosed safe location. Wednesday, 3 a.m., emergency hotline coverage." The room had gone completely still. No one was eating, no one was drinking. Jade's voice was small when she spoke. "Lena, what exactly do you do?" Pamela jumped in before I could answer, her voice rising with desperation. "This doesn't prove anything. These could be made up. They sound suspicious if anything." "Doesn't this sound suspicious to all of you?" My grandfather finally spoke. "Lena, why would your work require you to be available at 3 in the morning? Why the secrecy?" I took a breath, looking around the table at faces I'd known my entire life, faces that had doubted me, diminished me, dismissed me for 34 years. "I work in crisis response," I said clearly. "Legal protection and emergency intervention for families fleeing domestic violence." The silence that followed was profound. I watched understanding dawn on different faces at different speeds. The midnight calls are from women hiding in bathrooms while their abusers sleep. The 3 a.m. documentation sessions are because that's when a mother finally feels safe enough to tell me what's been happening to her children. The court filings at 5 a.m. are because judges' chambers open at 8, and we need protection orders in place before the abuser wakes up. My cousin Jade had tears in her eyes. Uncle Marcus set down his wine glass and wouldn't look at me. But Pamela wasn't finished. "So you help criminals hide," she said loudly. "You sneak people around, falsify documents to get them away from their families." "I help victims survive," I corrected, my voice steady. "I coordinate with law enforcement, attorneys, and judges to provide legal protection for people whose lives are in danger." "That's convenient," Pamela laughed, but it sounded shrill. "You get to play hero while refusing to help your actual family." That's when I noticed my cousin Tyler's girlfriend, Melissa, holding up her phone. Recording. I looked directly at the camera. My job is to protect the vulnerable, to believe them when no one else does, to take them seriously when everyone else calls them dramatic. The dinner ended awkwardly, people leaving in clusters, avoiding eye contact with me or Pamela. My grandfather hugged me tightly before I left. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. "I always have been." I drove home exhausted, emotionally hollow. My phone was silent for once. I thought maybe the recording Melissa took wouldn't matter, that it would stay private. I was wrong. By Monday morning, a 15-second clip was trending on TikTok. The caption, "Woman admits she helps criminals hide from their families." The video was carefully edited. It showed only Pamela saying, "So you help criminals hide?" And my response, "I coordinate with law enforcement to provide legal protection." The context was stripped away. The explanation was gone. Comments flooded in within hours. "This is disgusting. People like this destroy families. Someone should report her employer." By noon, someone had identified my workplace. By evening, my boss's office had received 36 emails demanding my termination. The account that first posted the video belonged to Melissa, but I knew who'd convinced her to do it. Tuesday morning, my boss called me in early. "We need to contain this immediately," she said, her voice tight with stress. "The board is asking questions. Donors are concerned. Unless you can control this narrative, we'll have to remove you from active cases." I went home shaking. This was everything I'd feared. My entire career, built on a foundation of trust and confidentiality, was crumbling because my mother couldn't accept boundaries. That afternoon, my building's security camera sent an alert to my phone. Movement detected outside my door. I opened the camera app and watched live footage of Pamela standing in my hallway, talking to a man I didn't recognize. She was pointing toward my apartment, gesturing, her face animated. The man took notes. I screenshot everything, sent it to my lawyer, and waited. An hour later, the building manager called. "Miss Hart, someone claiming to be your mother tried to convince me to do a welfare check on your apartment. She said she's worried you're keeping someone against their will." I obviously didn't comply, but I wanted you to know. The next morning, I got another alert. Pamela was back with the same man. This time I could hear audio. "She keeps strange hours," Pamela was telling him. "People coming and going at all times of night. I've tried to help her, but she's become paranoid and aggressive. I think she might be involved in something illegal." The man asked if she had evidence. "I have text messages where she admits to transporting people secretly," Pamela said. "Coordinating relocations, using fake names and addresses." My work, she was describing my work as if it were criminal activity. I called my lawyer immediately. "She's trying to get me investigated. What can we do?" "Document everything," he said. "Every interaction, every message, every attempt she makes to contact you. We're building a harassment case, but we need more." That night, my brother called. I almost didn't answer. "Lena?" His voice was strained. "We need to talk. It's about Mom." We met at a coffee shop near my office. Tyler looked terrible, exhausted and anxious. "Mom's been pressuring Melissa and me to keep posting about you online," he said quietly. "She wants to destroy your credibility completely. She's saying if we help her, she'll help us with rent for 6 months." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. He looked at his hands. "Because Melissa showed me the whole video from dinner, not the edited version, and I realized Mom lied about what you said." "It's worse than the rent thing," Tyler continued, his voice dropping even lower. "Mom's in financial trouble. Real trouble." My stomach sank. What kind of trouble? Credit cards maxed out, personal loans from people I've never heard of. She's been taking money from Grandpa's account without telling him. He slid a folder across the table. "Melissa found these in Mom's car. Bank statements, loan documents, letters from collection agencies, and several applications for credit cards that had been denied. 3 of them had my name on them." "She tried to open credit cards in my name?" My voice came out strangled. "Not just credit cards," Tyler said. "There's a personal loan for $8,000, signed with your name. I don't know if it went through." I called my lawyer from the coffee shop. He ran my credit report while I waited, heart pounding. 3 unauthorized accounts. 2 credit cards, 1 loan. Total fraudulent debt, $12,000. Court date already scheduled for the loan default. This was never about Tyler needing a place to stay. This was never about my lifestyle being lazy. This was about covering fraud. I froze my credit that night. Called the fraud departments of all 3 companies, filed police reports, sent everything to my lawyer and started building a case. At 2 a.m., unable to sleep, I sent Pamela a single text. All communication goes through my attorney from this point forward. Do not contact me directly. Her response came immediately. Despite the hour, how dare you threaten your own mother after everything I've done for you? 6 hours later, she posted a video on Facebook. Crying, makeup running, voice shaking with manufactured emotion. My daughter is trying to destroy me, she sobbed to the camera. I made mistakes with credit when I was helping her through college, and now she's using it against me. She's filed false police reports. She's turned my own son against me. I don't know what happened to the little girl I raised. The comments were split. Half believed her completely, half questioned why a daughter would go this far without reason. My phone exploded with messages, relatives demanding explanations, friends asking if I was okay, former colleagues expressing concern. I responded to none of them. The police report triggered a formal investigation. Detectives contacted me for an interview, treated me like a victim rather than a suspect, and confirmed that the signatures on the fraudulent applications weren't mine. Pamela's lawyer sent a letter threatening a defamation suit. My lawyer responded with evidence of identity theft, harassment, and attempted fraud. Within a week, her lawyer stopped returning her calls. My grandfather requested a meeting. Bring everything, he said. I arrived at his house on a Sunday afternoon. Pamela was already there, sitting rigidly on the couch, her face red and swollen. My grandfather was holding a folder with my name written on it in his careful handwriting. Sit down, both of you, he said quietly. He opened the folder. Years of bank statements from his account, transfers I'd never known about, money disappearing in $500 increments over 18 months. Pamela, he said, his voice heavy, you've been taking money from my account without asking. Nearly $20,000. She started to cry. I was going to pay you back. I had to. You don't understand who I owe money to. Then explain, he said. Pamela broke down completely. The debt had started small, she claimed, a bad investment, then borrowing from one credit card to pay another, then taking money from my grandfather's account when she got desperate. And when that wasn't enough, my grandfather asked, she wouldn't look at me. I thought if Lena helped with rent, if Tyler could stay with her for free, I could catch up on payments. When she refused, I got angry. So you committed identity theft, I said flatly. I was desperate, she screamed. And you have everything. A good job, your own apartment, no family depending on you. It wasn't fair that you had so much when I was drowning. My grandfather stood up slowly. You're going to pay back every cent you stole from Lena. You're going to pay back what you took from me. And you're going to get help for whatever is making you think this behavior is acceptable. Or what? Pamela snapped. Or I press charges, I said quietly, and I let the police investigation proceed without dropping it. She stared at me like I was a stranger. That night, she signed agreements with both my lawyer and my grandfather's. Repayment plans, no contact orders, everything documented and legally binding. The next morning, I slept until 10 a.m. for the first time in months. No emergency calls, no crisis interventions, just silence and safety and the knowledge that I'd finally drawn a line Pamela couldn't cross. My boss called that afternoon. The board investigation is closed, she said. They reviewed everything and found no evidence of wrongdoing. You're cleared to return to full caseload. Tyler sent a text. Melissa and I broke up. She was only with me because Mom promised her money. I'm sorry for everything. My grandfather invited me to lunch, just the two of us. Over soup and sandwiches, he told me stories about my grandmother, about choosing peace over chaos, about knowing when to walk away from people who refuse to change. Your mother might apologize someday, he said. She might even mean it. But you don't owe her forgiveness, just because she's family. 6 months later, Pamela requested a meeting. No lawyers, no family, just us. We met at a neutral coffee shop. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. The fire that had fueled her for so long seemed to have burned out. I was jealous, she said without preamble. You built a life I couldn't control, and it terrified me, so I tried to tear it down. I didn't say it was okay. I didn't offer comfort or absolution. I just sat there watching her fidget with her cup and felt nothing but a distant kind of sadness. I'm in therapy now, she continued, working on why I need to control everything, why I can't handle other people's success. She looked up at me. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. Good, I said simply. Keep trying. We talked for 20 more minutes. Surface topics, weather, Tyler's new job, grandfather's health, nothing deep, nothing real. When we stood to leave, she moved as if to hug me. I stepped back. You don't get access to me by hurting me, I said quietly. Maybe someday, but not yet. She nodded and left. That night, I looked at my calendar. Every entry had a purpose. Every 3 a.m. call mattered. Every emergency court filing protected someone who needed protection. My schedule hadn't just explained my work. It had explained my strength, my resilience, my refusal to be diminished by people who couldn't understand what I did or why it mattered. I was never lazy. I was surviving, helping others survive, building something that mattered in the spaces between sleep and dawn. And now finally, I was free.